Good morning, everyone. Today is a little bit different setup because my computer stopped working. So I have another computer upstairs. So it's a different place. I'm using a little bit different microphone today. See, look at this. Look at this here. See, I'm a little microphone. And maybe this whole business was really for the best. It'll come out to be a better sound and a better. Okay, we'll see. Now let us learn. We'll start to learn. Here is Rosh Hashanah. Before we begin learning about Rosh Hashanah, this is a speech given by Lubavitcher Rebbe in 19. What's this happens over here? That's better, huh? In 19. Is a speech, right, given by Lubavitcher Rebbe, and I'll tell you when. I will tell you when. It is in 1957. Huh? 1957. And here we go. 1957. And it is a speech about what is the sound of the shofar telling us. Here we go. So here we have our charity. Let's start off by giving charity. Charity saves from death. Charity brings all good things. Here we go. Charity. Remember to be charitable. And this is in Yiddish. It's in the second book of speeches, Sichot, written by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I think there's officially like 42 something of to date. They're still adding on. Those are just the ones that the Rebbe went over, and there are thousands of speeches. The Mishnah says, let's see if we can get this over here. Excellent. The Mishnah says about Rosh Hashanah as mitzvah hayom b'shofar. The mitzvah of the day is with the shofar. That's the big mitzvah of Rosh Hashanah, which singles it out from all the other holidays in Judaism. And there's a shofar. We sound the shofar. As a Sfaranda mashal, there is given a metaphor from Moreno Baal Shem Tov, from the Baal Shem Tov, or if they're an Indian from shofar, what a shofar is. As does is a zoevi, it is like a son, hachetzoek, that cries out, Abba, Abba, hatzileni, Father, Father, save me. Long story. I think I told this story before, but it's a long story about a king sends his son away, or his son runs away from the palace, and he forgets that he stays away for too long, and he forgets that he's a king. He forgets his origin. He forgets the language. He forgets everything. He gets so involved in whatever's day-to-day matters, just hand to mouth, just surviving. That it's a long story about the very interesting story. But finally, in the end, the son is away from the palace for like 15 years. Oh, good morning. The son is so far away from the palace, like 15 years, and he's going around collecting money for people. He's like a wild man. He sleeps outside all the time. Good morning.
Where are you?
Baruch Hashem. Great.
Where are you?
Where am I? Oh, I'm now upstairs in my house because my computer stopped working, and I'm gonna have to take it into it. But I have another computer, so I arranged everything around there, and around that other computer, that's why it's where I record sometimes music, and so I have a better microphone. So hopefully this is a better microphone, and it is a change for the better. Okay, so now we're learning a speech by the Rebbe, which the Rebbe gave in 1957, and he brings in this about the shofar. He says the Baal Shem Tov had a mashal, a parable, a metaphor that he told about the shofar, and it is the parable is that there once upon a time was a king, and the king had a son, a young son, and the king sent him away, or the son ran away, and it ended up that the whole entire mission that he went on became completely confused, and the son wandered around gathering money from people. He didn't know where to sleep. He used to sleep outside. 15 years later, he comes back to the castle, a wild man. He has forgotten the language, and when he tries to get in, so the guards there beat him up, and he sees his father looking up from this high tower. His father's been searching for him all this time, and he screams out to his father, "Father, help me, help me!" But he forgot the language. The son forgot the language, and because he forgot the language, I'm making the story just as short as possible, so it also probably becomes as uninteresting as possible. But the point is that the son screams out to his father, "Father, Father, help me!" But the son has forgotten the language, so he screams out to his father, like a shofar, screams out. And his father says, "That's my son. That's my son's voice." And he saves his son. He says, "That's the sound of the shofar. The shofar is screaming out to God from the essence of our soul. Help me, help us, help me from my selfish impulses and from my the meaningless parts of my life. Save me, God." That's a screaming out. Covered Kushisa Morichami, that says, "My father-in-law had derzelt," he said, in the name of the Frierdiker Rebbe, in the name of the previous rabbis of Chabad, as men hat amal arois geschikt, that the Rebbes of Chabad, right? There's up to now there's been 7 Rebbes of Chabad. So the Rebbes sent down Zogan to say, the Rebbe said that it should be announced right before Rosh Hashanah to the pupils, to the students that were learning in the Shiva. Zogan dem Olam, saying everyone in the base midrash, that's people that are learning, that should be given the message that this story is very, very important for Rosh Hashanah, that the child is screaming out to his father, "Father, Father," but the message that we want to give, that the Rebbe's wanted to give, as there, that the main thing is not so much screaming out, "Father, Father," but the main thing is screaming out. And according to the story, the metaphor, as the child is screaming out, "Father, Father, help me." But we are screaming out to God, which God is much more than our Father. So here we see. Their pirish is, what does it mean? As Zayin and Doch Da in them Tzvei Inyanim, there are in this screaming out of the shofar, there are 2 messages. Number 1, the tza'aka alain, just the screaming out. Screaming out means it's not good to me. The situation that I'm in now is not good. I want to get out of it. I need help. And there's also the tochen. There's also the content, was lake Rhine, which is in the scream. Is there ikra, but the main thing is nit the tochen, not that we're screaming out to God or some aspect of God, that God is our Father, He's our Creator. We're screaming out just to God, the essence of God, which God is much higher, if you want to call it, than being our Father. That's pretty deep, being our Father. And being our King is even deeper. Being our King, being our Master, that's pretty deep. That God has a direct will for us that we have to do. But the main thing is not the understanding. That's important. But the main thing is that on Rosh Hashanah, we go to shul, go to synagogue, and we just say, "God, help me. I don't understand anything. I don't understand anything about you, God. You understand everything about me." Screaming out. And they're talking that this content was menleik taraim, which we put in the scream, seine nit alle gleich. Everybody is not equal. Aber in dem tzaka, but in the scream, everyone is equal. Some people call it to God from desperation. Some people call it to God from love. Some people call it to God from ignorance. They want education. Who are you? I know you exist. I don't know what you are. Some people call it to God from desire. They wanted to get, some people call it to God from, how do you say, yush. Yush means that they've given up, but they're lost. They're the lost case. Das is doch shine zu jeder Yidden. Some people have problems, inner problems. Some people have outer problems. Read sometimes the Psalms, Book of Psalms. You'll see what type of amazing cornucopia of problems that King David had from every side, from within, from without, to appreciate the world, not to be afraid of the world, not to be afraid of people, to appreciate people, to love everybody. But calling out to God is equal to every Jew. Yeder, every single Jew is tzoak b'kol panimi, in his inner voice, panima, in his inner voice, the ishtama that we can hear. But b'kol panima, the lo ishtama. I'm sorry. Yeder is it tzoak b'kol panima the ishtama. All the kol panima the lo ishtama. Every Jew calls out to God, whether it is in an inner scream which you can hear, or an inner scream which you cannot hear, cannot be heard. It's so deep, so essential inside of every Jew. But in the inner soul of every Jew is this scream out to God. Every Jew, right? The biggest communist, whatever it is, it could be that they quench it, they try to ignore it, they try to pretend it's not there, they oppose it, they oppose God, they oppose Judaism, they oppose everything, but it's screaming out. And even more, there's a speech that the Lubavitcher Rebbe, a mamar, this discourse, that the Rebbe wrote in, what is it, Tavshin Kavches, when there was the 6-Day War. And there was a tremendous arousal of Jews in the 6-Day War, tremendous arousal. The name of the mimer is Bayomahu Yitaka B'Shofar Gadol, just like we learned in Likuti Torah, same title. And there was a tremendous arousal of Jews all over the world for Judaism. Jews rushed to the kotel. They took over the kotel. Jews that had never put on tefillin, and suddenly they put on tefillin. Right, the Gerer Rebbe, he had wasn't enough Chabadniks to do it. He sent his Hasidim, Gerer Hasidim, that usually they're very sort of, separated from everybody else, that they went down to put tefillin on people. Tremendous arousal. And the Rebbe said that that's something like the future when the great shofar will be sounded. Will be sounded. Why? Because every single Jew in his inner essence, his soul is screaming out to God. And the Rebbe says that I'm sorry? Did you say something? No. And the Rebbe said, where is this, the big shofar? It says that, in Isaiah says that the big shofar will be sounded, and it doesn't say who will sound it. So the Rebbe said that the big shofar will be an echo or a result of the screaming out of the souls. It says there will come, in the prophecy of Isaiah, it says there will be sounded a big shofar, and there'll come the lost people in the land of Ashur, and the pushed away people in Egypt, from Egypt. He says, what's the Ashur? Jews that are lost in success. And Egypt are Jews that are lost in ignorance. Says those Jews, they don't even know that they're Jews. And their soul is screaming out that's the lowest point of Judaism you can get to. Their souls are screaming out. And the echo or the result of the screaming out of their souls, they don't even know that their soul is screaming out. But that's the echo of that, the result of their voices calling out. That's the big shofar that's going to be sounded in the future. Amazing. And the Rebbe even says, so if these people that are so far away, they're going to bring the big redemption, so what do we have to do Torah and mitzvahs for? They're doing it. And the Rebbe said, no, that's referring to everybody. We have no idea how far away we are from the truth. We don't know how far away we are from what's really good. We don't know how far away. Every Jew is in this situation of being pushed away and being lost. So it's not that we're going to get a punishment or anything. We're not talking about punishments. We're talking about that we don't know how far away we are from ultimate good. B'shas Yidin, when a Jew makes a blessing on the shofar, Shomea Teruat Am Yisrael, Barachim, that's the blessing that we make in the prayers. Shomea Teruat Am Yisrael, Barachim, in the Musaf prayer, is was Al Pidin, according to the law, Jewish law, is Dach Safech Brachas L'Hakel. If you have any doubt, if you have done a certain thing, let's say you have a doubt, if you made a blessing on eating an apple, or you made a blessing on putting on tefillin, so you don't make a blessing. Why? Because if you have a doubt if you did it or not, so you don't make a blessing. If you do make a blessing, it's a sign that for sure that blessing is necessary. Is Oib the Anshe Knesset, if the men of the great assembly that was in the beginning of the second temple, these were men that they knew how to raise the dead. They were like Daniel. It says Daniel and Mordechai, Ezra, that these people, Knesset Yisrael, haben abgepasken, if the men of the great assembly they decided as mendarf machen a bracha that we should make a blessing. And what is the blessing that we make? We make a blessing. God, you listen to the shofar sound, trua. You listen to the trua, the trumpets, the shofar sound of the Jewish people in mercy. That's it. If they made a blessing like this, so it can't be what's called a bracha levatala. It can't be a blessing on nothing. It must be that the tzaka from Yidden, that God will, for sure, he listens to this scream, the screaming heart of the Jewish people, was does is the inyan tekiah. That's the idea of the tekiah, and he'll do it in mercy. In mercy. He'll overlook all the bad things that we did, he'll overlook all the stupid things that we did, he'll make excuses for everything, and God really knows how to do that. And the biggest excuse is, what does God want from us? He put us in this terrible world. We're outnumbered 500 to 1, 1,000 to 1, who knows how many. And just it's the tendency is just to melt in with everybody else, just to do what everybody else does, right? And when Jews act like everybody else in the world, that's called sinning, right? You don't keep Shabbos, who keeps Shabbos? You don't eat kosher, who eats kosher? Right? There's 8.5 billion people in the world, something like that, 9 billion people. How many are? Right? Yesterday there was 8.5 billion, maybe today there's 9 billion people in the world. And how many Jews are there? There's like 20 million, 20 million Jews, and not more of them. Let's say half of them are, vaguely religious, some even less than that. So we're outnumbered, 500 to 1, 1,000 to 1. What do you want from us, God? What do you want from us? So God says, you're right, 100% you're right. But still, the Jewish soul doesn't accept all these excuses. The Jewish soul wants the truth, ultimate truth, and it screams out. Mitzad them, because of this, which God is makabel tzuas am Yisrael, because God receives the crying out, the screaming out of the shofar over the inner heart of the Jewish people in mercy, werd nimshach zu all Yidden, that will be drawn down to every single Jew, zu jeden einer, from einer und einer, to each and every individual one, in alle inyanim, in all of their matters of life, was they darfum, which they need, sai and ruchnis, whether spiritually or physically, bani chayom mizoni, whether it is matters of family, whether it is matters of health, whether it is matters of income. And because it's the Eibishter, because God, git im miyado, amalea apsucha v'kadosh, because God gives from his full hand and his holy hand and his wide hand. B'meila, so therefore, zayin and b'nei chayom mizoni, therefore your family matters, your health matters, and your monetary matters, was veren nimshach, which will be drawn down, will be revichi, will be plentiful, even more than what you need. This is a very basic thing in Judaism. That's why the God of Israel is not like any of the other gods in the world. The other religions have gods, right? But the God of Israel, he creates the world. He's above the world. He creates the spiritual. He's above the spiritual. But he cares about every detail. The God of Israel cares about every single detail of the world. Let's see. This. Okay. He cares about every single detail, and especially about every single person and every detail in every person's life. Nothing is accidental in the world. That's the teachings of the Baal Shem Tov. Everything is very, very important. And Rosh Hashanah is the day when, through our prayers, as blessing is drawn down to each and every one of those blessings, to each details. And God wants to do it. God already wants to do it. He just wants us to be willing to receive. Which this is included the idea of a good year, a Shana Tova, a good year, umetuka, and a sweet year. I read in a letter by the Rebbe, why does he say a good and a sweet year? Why a sweet year? A good year? It's because good, you can interpret it many different ways. Something is good to one person, but sweet means that it's you feel that it's good. Something that's sweet, you feel it's good. And there's types of sweet that are not healthy, right? Or white sugar, this type, but nevertheless, sweet. Everyone agrees that eating something that's sweet means matuka also means tasty. You feel it, physically appreciate it. There's no doubts about it. When kum tarot, this comes in the physical world, the mata mesar tavachim, in below 10 tavachim, which means in the physical world, a tova nira venigla, in good, which is visible and obvious. Not just that we're going to say, whatever God does is for the better, and for sure we are going to see that there is going to be benefit from this, and in the future this is part of the bigger plan. That's all true. That's all true. But meanwhile, people are suffering. It says the whole point of Judaism is that no one should suffer. It shouldn't be that we suffer in this world in order to go to the world to come. Even though that's true, there is such a thing like that, but it doesn't have to be that way, right? It doesn't have to be that way. And that's what Rosh Hashanah brings, that the heavens come down to earth, that the world becomes good in a visible way. Kavod Kedushas Morechamim, that's the whole purpose of creation. That's why God created the world. The previous Rebbe had Zer gehalten from Kitzurim. He very, very much believed, he held by summaries, by making summaries. The Kitzur and the Kuda Tamsit. If so, I'm going to make a summary of what I just said. The summary, how do you say, the essence of the whole 48 hours of Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is always 2 days, whether in Israel or outside of Israel, it's 2 days. So that's 48 hours, 48 hours. I saw in one place 48 is the numerical value of Cham. Cham means to be hot, to be warm. So in that you transform all the warmness, the hot heat, the fire you have for physical things that make people angry, people depressed, maybe if you don't get what you want, etc. It transforms it to good. But here the Rebbe is saying, and the 48 hours of Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe, previous Rebbe, summarized into 2 points. 2 points, like the letter Aleph, a point below and a point above. The letter Aleph, see, the letter Aleph has a point on the top and a point on the bottom. A little, okay. A point on the top and a point on the bottom. The Nakuda Lamata, the point which is on the bottom, is a Yid, is a Jew. Like a little Yud. Yud is like a Yid. Yid is a Jew. That the Jew is Zich Mishabed, that the Jew connects himself to God, with the Kabbalah's all, with Kabbalah's all, with, how do you say, accepting on himself the yoke. Mitzad dem inyan ha-malchut. What does it mean, accepting the yoke? That God is a king. And because God is a king, as God is not just a regular king, God is creating us. I am a creation of the king. God is infinitely, infinitely more real than I am. But he's creating me. He loves me. It's not like a king that's sitting up in the palace and everybody just does whatever the king says, right? The king says, jump in the river, you jump in the river. Whatever the king says to do, you do, because everybody loves the king. They're all given over to the king. But the king is still separate from the people. By God, it's not that way. God is a king, yes, and he gives us responsibility, and there's things that he wants us to do. There's things that, so to speak, he needs us to do. He gets pleasure. But on the other hand, God creates us. So our whole very existence is really just a big gift by God. For sure, we owe him everything. That's what's called Kabbalat Ol, accepting the yoke. We don't understand this. It certainly is not common, how do you say, the common sense that we feel that there's God and we feel that God wants us. It's a thing you have to really think about. But nevertheless, that's what's called Kabbalat Ol. We accept the yoke like an ox accepts the yoke on himself. And he doesn't understand what's going on. We have to put the yoke on ourselves, not like an ox that the owner puts in it. But we accept the yoke of God. That's what's called receiving on ourselves that God is a king. That's the lower point. When the Nakuda Lamaila, but the upper point of Rosh Hashanah is, as vos the Eibishter, that God is zich, he is, so to speak, meshabed zu Yidden. He gives himself and connects himself to the Jewish people. We give ourselves over to God. God, so to speak, that's what it says, kivyachol, so to speak, he gives himself over to us. Natati kishmechem bitam, like we say in Shema Yisrael, I will give the rains in their time, etc. All of the physical things, because by God, physical is very, very important. Mit all in yanim, everything which stay in the parsha, which says all the rains in their time, the early rains, the late rains, that everything in the physical world will be imbued with godliness, will feel the essence of God, how it is expressed in every detail of the world. That's Rosh Hashanah, the last day of the finale of the creation of the world, the 6th day of creation, when God finished creating the world. Okay, that is, there we go. Stop recording. How do we do this over here? There we go.